Mr. Taylor, we're now live.
Would you mind sending that back?
All right. Good evening. I'm Doug Dallas. Let's see. We're going to get the meeting started. Jerry, our chair of facilities, is not here tonight to steer the meeting, so I'll do my best to keep things moving. The primary purpose of tonight's meeting is to review the bid results and recommendations for the Newtown Middle School and Holland Middle School projects. A couple of other small items to go on, which I'll touch on first. Also with us tonight, we have our design team. We have Aretha Bill from Dewey Engineering and Warren Garrity from Dewey Engineering, David Schrader from Schrader Group Architecture, and Robin Breslin from Breslin Reed Darrow here. So if there are any questions that we need to pass their way, they can assist. They'll also be here at tomorrow night's board meeting for the same. So, as I said, facilities improvements update, we'll talk about the Newtown Middle School and Holland Middle School bids. Before doing so, just want to touch on some things I'll be bringing to the facilities in April. The final accounting of the Network Operations Center project will be brought here in April. The summer project bid review and recommendations will be here in April. The Holland Elementary School toilet room, tile floor repair issue will be discussed, and an Aramark custodial 1, 3, and 5-year proposal that they brought to us for discussion as well. As I said, this will be at the next facility. So moving on to the issues at hand. First, the Newtown Middle School project. Not going to go over the drawings unless there's some question that we need to point back to these for, so I have them in the show for that purpose. The plans of Newtown Middle. So to talk a little bit about the history, the bids were open March 1st and 3rd. They opened on the 1st. We had some issues with the prevailing wage rates. It was brought to our attention on the day bids were due. So we opened the electrical and mechanical bids 2 days later to address that issue. We had good competition. We had a minimum of 4 bidders for each major contract. Project is under budget and at this time still on schedule. Actually, by meeting tomorrow night, we'll be ahead of schedule. Lead goal, sustainable energy efficient building was the goal, and we're still on track for it. There's a lot of value-added alternatives incorporated in the project for durability, sustainability, which we'll touch on. We're on track to receive the $2 million through the ACE grant. We're working hard on the lead process and making sure that we have the points that we need. Some of the alternates we're recommending will help us get to that, to the minimum points that are required. We'll talk about it. And we're on track to receive a PDD reimbursement if there were actually a reimbursement. So that is to be seen. The bids for Newtown Middle School, as I said, were favorable. We had good competition. The apparent low contractors at this time, which we will ultimately shake out to be qualified after we see bonds and insurance. We'll review those with the solicitor and insurance agent and builders. Would be the general contractor with the alternates selected that are listed, and we'll touch on this shortly. Borough Construction for mechanical, who we've worked with in the past, also worked with Penn Builders, both very good contractors. Electrical, BSI electrical contractors, we've actually worked with them here on Goodnow, and I've worked with them in the past. They're also a good company. Apex Plumbing and Heating we have experience with as well. And Plymouth Environmental for the environmental work, who we have good experiences with. So we have a pretty solid team in place should this project move forward at a total construction cost of about $46 million. And we'll go over the budget.
So there'll be comparisons.
We will. Yep, for sure. Fast, as you request. I'll let you touch.
Right. So basically, I just wanted to kind of, this is just a summary. We have more detail if there's ever need that has that information, but for the purposes of projecting it here, we've kind of put them in these categories, so we can certainly provide more detail where it's necessary. But I just want to recognize that with everything that's going out there in the construction industry today, I think I want to speak on behalf of the team. it really was a total team effort. It really started with the leadership of the board, the timing of doing these projects, obviously the entire design team, and working through the administrative staff, everybody obviously from Barry, the principals, Doug, everybody coming together, all the various departments to put these pieces together, execute these bids at the right timeline, and kind of bring them here to get to a really opportune start time for both projects. There's some projects where you miss this summer window, and I think even the way the contractors looked at it, the timing, I think, has helped us with bid. So we can't take full credit for all that. I think all of you need to take credit for all of that, because the timing, I think, is a critical part of it. We'll talk about Holland. Holland is different than Newtown, but we also put Holland together in a way that I think strategically provided advantages, because contractors can work under roof. So although there's a complexity of phasing, they can be under roof and be working in renovation areas. So a bunch of different things, and we'll talk through some of them. But the bottom line is we had a budget that was put together almost a year and a half ago, if not more. And that was at a construction budget of $49,700 that you see there. With all the alternates that are being recommended, and as Doug said, we're going to walk you through them. And we think based on the value, there's some that we're recommending, and based on the value, there's some that we're not recommending. So we'll walk through some of those and certainly, discuss them with you. But we think we really vetted them through and tried real hard. That's not to say, it's ultimately your call, obviously. The financing costs even went down, which you guys probably know. So the financing costs have been put together right now for the project, and those have gone down. You can see that went down to $917. The contingency we adjusted slightly, lowered it slightly, but again, we're still leaving a contingency. We do have a long way to go on that. We have a lot of site work to bring the building out of the ground, and then we've got demolition of the old building and site work. Again, we're going to be very, 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 very frugal on obviously capturing and utilizing that contingency, but it's there to cover those unforeseens, which there are still, many to potentially uncover. Fees, permits, and testing, we've also managed that budget really well, and that's under budget. And then if you'll notice on the furniture and equipment, that's the only budget line item that we've increased. We had a very meager, in fact, maybe unrealistic furniture and budget line item. But also, as we went through the design, there's a lot of components of the building that we decided we'd get a better value if we purchased them directly as opposed to buying them through contractors who would put markup. So there's a lot of furniture and equipment that we need to buy, everything from projectors and everything else, the rough wiring and everything's in, but those components need to be bought to complete the project. So right now, again, that's just a budget. We're not spending that money. We're not authorizing that. I'm sure those will be spent through mainly state contracts or IT purchases or furniture purchases. There's some equipment necessary for fit out. It's desks, chairs, that type of stuff. It's some equipment for technology, and I said projectors, etc. Telephones, all of that. Yeah, thank you. So as you can see, the project budget without the ACE grant is the $58,582, and the actual is $55,800. So almost $3 million below. And then we have the ACE grant that obviously also provides us $2 million. So
Does that make sense? Yeah. Is
what's
that
that?
58 million plus
Yeah, that-
2 million is?
Because that doesn't include the financing.
The financing took the financing out.
Because the financing is sort of buried into, although we have to show that for plan time, you're not writing a check to anybody for the financing. That's sort of built into the, how you pay back the loan. But you can
Where's
add
the
that.
architect fees?
It's all in fees, permits, and testing.
That's in these numbers.
Our fee is in there, the architect's fee.
So that's all the soft costs that we speak about.
Correct. That's all.
And I'm sorry, you'll get in the board packet that we're working on getting uploaded today, you'll see more detailed side-by-side breakdown of all the soft costs. So it's all spelled out more clearly for you, and then you'll see all the line items.
So that's sort of where we are. Again, we're going to come back to this. Sorry.
The financing costs, can you explain what that represents?
I'm not a financing expert, so PFM really put together the financing cost, but it basically As I understand it, represents the issuance costs, it represents, you need some legal fees, attorney fees. It's basically the cost of issuing the bonds.
So none of the interest.
I don't-
Right, and those plan account documents are also being posted in the board docs as well. Yeah, see about those.
You can
They
see,
were working hard to get them all done today, they'll wrap them up tomorrow morning. I apologize, we did a lot in a little bit of time here, so we're working hard to do what we can as quickly as possible. Hi, facilities?
What? Facilities committee, yes. Sorry about that.
okay, so, speaking of the bid alternates, we did do, again, a very thorough job of giving ourselves some options. In addition to just giving ourselves some options, many of these bid alternates were put in place also to ensure competition. There's some systems that we wanted to make sure we had adequate competition and also still give us the choice to have preferred systems where they were important. And then some of them, again, were just also to make sure we had budget control to allow for some flexibility had we not met the budget as well as we did. So those are the reasons. So the bid alternates that were recommended, the first one is engineered stone for the building pad. So that's $320,000. The main reason for that is, number one, it provides a very stable base to build a building on. You are reducing your risks for schedule delays due to weather by buying that. But in addition to that, it provides a stable subgrade for future value of the building in terms of the foundation sitting on. Everybody always says, you know, a building's only as good as its foundation. So here you're assured of an engineered fill that has minimal issues potentially with differential settlement. It just becomes a much more uniform base. But most importantly, it minimizes the risk associated with, number one, schedule delays, and number two, it eliminates the risk that we have soils there that might not be able to be used, so we would end up paying unit prices to make adjustments in the field. So it reduces that risk also. And we just thought that is a very good value. We've done that repeatedly on many projects, and every project that we've done it on, everybody has agreed it has been a great value. So that's the number.
What's the alternative?
Use the soils and take the risk. Use the dirt that's on site.
Do I recall, Doug, that we did it at South and it was a good investment?
Yeah, I was not here for that. I know Jerry brought that up, that there evidently was some issue at South with unsuitable soils. Maybe not unsuitable, but soils that were compactable soils but became wet. And when they become wet, you can't immediately compact them, which means people have to wait or import stone and pay a change order during construction to maintain your schedule. This is being proactive and putting in, the pad, as Reed mentioned. I think it extends up to maybe 10 feet beyond the building footprint. So if it rains the next day, the contractors are still working away. Another challenge you have with building pads is you establish it with earth. The contractor, the general contractor compacts it. The plumber comes in to excavate for his work. He doesn't properly compact his trench. The next thing you know, you have. And we are doing testing, and we will confirm that those are being compacted properly, but inevitably something could, not be seen. It happens, and then you get cracks in your slab. You have problems such as that. This will also assist in reducing differential settlement in your slab, give us a more sustainable, structurally sound concrete slab.
So that's the first one. And then the Garland roof alternate is, again, this is to upgrade the roof with an additional 5-year warranty, a built-up roof system. And we think that's a good value to protect our 180,000 square foot investment, of 288,000. This one is a DDOT alternate. Again, we put in a lot of controls in HVAC to ensure competition, and we got the most favorable price by doing that through a Johnson equipment and controls package. So that's a savings of $110,000 that we're recommended. The solar roof panels, we've talked a lot about this building being a LEED sustainable building. I think this gives you a couple of things. Number one, it gives us an asset to maybe use as a building educational tool. it's not gonna, it also is gonna offset some energy in the future, obviously not a lot, it's a small solar system, it's not a big one. And then obviously, you know, the whole purpose of the ACE grant is to do some alternative clean energy stuff, so this, I think, speaks to the fact that you are being, you know, forward-thinking in that area. So I think those are the combination, and hopefully the educational program will also use it.
And you're right, because we had to develop a educational program as part of LEED, that'll be part of the program 2019, 18, 19, and we'll have a module, the dashboard system in the building as well, so this can all be tapped into as part of it.
Exactly.
So why not go further with the solar panels? I'm just curious. It's such a small portion of it, and
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it really lends any benefit. I see it's 3%. I love the idea of the educational side of it,
Right.
but why not reach more? Well, can't we see a better return on that? Why not?
Well, you're gonna spend more, right? The return on it is not the main reason to do this. I mean, if you really look at the value and calculate 3%, in fact, I can calculate a return on the 198,000, your return is not gonna make sense. So it's not, unless you get a specific grant, again, you're using part of the 2 million vortex, unless you got an actual solar grant, that's where it's paid off. And I know this has been discussed at the Council Rock School District a number of times, should we put solar, should we put solar? The first issue is feasibility of the site to accommodate it. The second is zoning variances and land development requirements. Yep, believe it or not. So,
No, I believe it.
okay, sorry. So that's the second piece. And then the third is the payback. You know, are you willing to invest a lot more money? I think we're doing this primarily as a teaching tool, primarily because we have that $2 million grant. If you just try to, you know, you can do math and try it, but you know, for 3% is 198. You'll see at Holland we did a 3% and a 7%. You'll see the numbers are basically almost double. We get to 7%. And then on this building, the roof area that we had, this strategic roof area is the best in terms of south facing and open enough, and it's not going to affect the roof asset itself. The site itself didn't really lend itself to it unless you start building parking lot canopy structures, and start to find open fields where you put it into.
Did you just get either one of those options?
For,
Canopy structure or a solar array field?
because of cost, no.
But Mark, what we're gonna do is, once the dust settles on these two projects, I'm gonna reach out to the solar company that we talked to, and brought one forward as well. We're gonna see if they're willing to do some study for the district and determine if it's feasible to do.
So I'll just say again that Northampton, well, the municipal authority in Northampton, they have their source capable, so it didn't cost the authority a nickel.
Right.
And
That's a PTA.
yeah, that's, what's that?
A lot of space.
But then you have to take a look at what the increase is.
I agree, I understand, but I feel like we haven't really looked at that.
We're going to, for sure.
The other thing should we look at that, because we haven't really looking forward here, so.
And the other part of that is this is part of the points that we need for these goals as well.
Correct.
So this adds points.
This gives us about, if I remember, Robin, correct me if I'm 3 points.
I think it's 3 points, yes.
Okay, so I'm just trying to, is this truly a teaching tool or is it, you know, do we need the teaching tool versus 200,000?
I think it's a
If it's the point to help get the 2 million, that also adds value.
It's absolutely worth getting to know.
And are they three critical points or swing points?
Well, right now, because we've gotten feedback on our design submission, and we think we're a target, but we were hovering around 65 points, which is what we were anticipating to get. We need to be, as you just said, at 60. And so the chances of losing, we think at this point, it's a strategically good move for the bank for the reasons you've said. You might want to really do more. It's a starting point. It's a teaching tool, and plus you've got the instrument. I mean, that's why. And realistically, this roof is set up right for it, and there's no compromises in everything.
Okay.
So that, and then the next one is the warranty. Again, because of the value, we just did, so you get a 2-year warranty from the contractors instead of a 1-year warranty. We think, and that's across all 4 primes, different numbers for each, if you really want to evaluate the bid tab. But we just felt for $100,000, we get an extra year of warranty, give us a little more protection. Sometimes things do fail in the second year. So that's that. This one is interesting, the sod and the grass. We just think strategically, because of the complexity of the phasing and what have you, we just thought it would be nice for strategic areas for us to do sod. It also does give you another value in that it ensures the grading to be a little more accurate and refined when you have to do sod. And then also it protects the building, because sometimes when you have the mud there, and, it rains, a beautiful brick gets beat up with mud. So a combination of reasons, and we just thought the number there was worthwhile.
Is that just for the sod, or are there any unforeseen complexities, like the amount of watering that you have to do with the equipment for man hours to maintain? That there's nothing unreasonable in there that,
No, we have
it's not a big number there,
we'd have to maintain the sod and water the grass either way.
And so is that the whole front of the building? or-
It's the areas right from the
Right.
curb, from the parking lot in towards the building, so it's not all the fields.
It is though a field, so that they'll have a gym field.
Right, yeah.
We were trying to establish a field.
in the
A limited area, and then this was just a small one, upgrade lockers, doors, it's going from 18 to 16 gauge, I believe. So just thicker doors, we've had issues with locker doors, so again, we just wanted to see what the competition was for $2,800. It's worth considering, so again, we've been pretty strategic. If you look at the list of alternates, they're pretty expensive, you can see some of them right
The
there.
kids are always talking about their lockers. I mean, are these sized like in a way that they're gonna be?
You guys know the dimensions, anybody?
I don't remember the exact width, I think it's 1 foot, and then there's two high, one on top of the other one, they go up about 6 feet.
Is it foot wide?
Yes, we showed all different types to the administration and principal, and that's the one that they picked as the most preferred, and we put it in the building.
Did you ask the kid?
I don't know if the principals did.
Their,
I don't know if
the
they.
rate was actually 16 to 14. Sorry. Yeah, we did. I mean, we met with the principals, and all three principals, and talked about the appropriate sizes and challenges with backpacks and things like that. It seemed to be the most reasonable approach. And you have to be cautious. If you get too big, you can't meet the locker count that you require throughout the building. If they get too wide, you start to stretch these things out in linear fashion, and run out of room.
Yeah, my memory of Holland Middle School was that they were so narrow.
They're very narrow.
7.5 inches.
Yeah, they are.
So this is a considerable.
Double.
It is, and it is the most popular locker type for all the middle schools we've done in the last 10, 15 years. This is what we've been putting in, that's what they choose.
We can confirm that for tomorrow. This is for that tomorrow. We can confirm that.
This is all documents that they have, Denise is making a really good point. Have we consulted any students about these projects in any level, any of our student advisory?
Yeah, teachers and the administrators represent, but a lot is a great example. They spoke to what they hear from the students about their issues with the lockers, why students don't use the lockers. Some that are too high, they can't reach them. Some that can't fit a jacket in because they can't put a book bag in there because it's too narrow. So some of those things were taken into account. There were no students brought into the discussions as design, just what the teachers that represented the buildings as well as the administrators shared and what they heard from students. In other words, when they picked desks and chairs, they were talking about those same things. Students indicate in these kinds of areas where they're pulling desks together to do group work, they prefer to not have a single desk chair combo because their ankle, they don't fit nicely, and students struggle to move around. So they in certain areas with separate desk chair combos so they can do more group work. So the kinds of conversations that they represent on behalf of the students.
And a couple others were at the cafeteria providing some open cubby space so that if they couldn't get to a locker, they had a place to throw their belongings outside. And the labs in the science rooms, the fixed tables, they like the flexibility.
Science and not chairs, yes.
So there was feedback from all of the teams. We had several days of meetings with many staff members here that had the pulse of the kids for sure.
And from a process standpoint, all that work happened before I arrived. But in my experience, that process sounds very familiar. and the teachers have a real good handle on what the kids want. And not only have a real good handle on it, but then they'll go back and they'll have conversations with their classes about this or about that, because for a teacher, it's a once in a career opportunity to be able to say, yeah, how often do you have your principal, your director of facilities, or whoever it is, these architects saying, hey, so if you could build your own family consumer science room, right? What would it look like? How would it be organized? What would you have? Where would it be? What would the layout be? The footprint, square footage, from soup to nuts. And so when you have that chance, you naturally just engage in those conversations with your students as well. So it sounds like a pretty familiar process from what I've seen in the past.
Yeah, I understand that, and the perspective from the teachers is important. We want the teachers to be comfortable and be excited about the project. But, we have representatives in ninth grade from south and north that just came out of the middle schools. So I wonder if another teaching opportunity for them to be involved in something like this, and we should be treating them close to being adults at this age. So would it be beneficial to bring those two representatives in the process, or would it be a hindrance too far in the process? I don't know. We've got really intelligent, engaging, bright kids, and I think they, even if they say, yeah, I agree with what Dr. Frazier says, or whoever the teacher is, at least we get some consensus, or maybe we hear a different opinion that we're really not capturing what the teacher would capture.
It's a different lens. It never hurts to ask.
Yeah.
The next four are, we're putting alternates with the reason I'll take responsibility for those because I was being frugal and wanted to make sure that we could hit the budget before we considered some of the programming preferences that were out there, some of the needs that were necessary. The one was outdoor cafeteria seating area, right outside the cafeteria. This gives an opportunity, for students, perhaps as a reward, perhaps as a strategy to, encourage and let them sit outside.
Well, that's not in the courtyard.
I know, it's that right adjacent to the cafeteria, which is, in the back, right next to it, so they just go right outside the doors and still monitoring, so right by the kitchen. So that's that number.
Will that be able to be offered in Holland?
We are saying we're also coming there, you will see that, so we have some layout there. And then overlay Greenland again, we think the road is going to need it. You can defer that, but we think it's a good buy right now. So it is a project that it's cleaned up and finished. And then sanitary line replacement, that is needed, but again, we're just monitoring some of these cost issues that came up for approvals. And lighting protection, again, we think it's a good buy. At that price, we would consider it would be much higher. So at that price, we recommend it. So those are those classes. And then these are the ones that were not recommended. So believe it or not, I believe all four classrooms, you could say, remember this 4 classroom alternate, 16 versus 7, was just under 400,000, which, realistically, you might not be able to build one classroom if you tried to build it for 400,000. So, if you're getting 4, it's probably not good bargain if you consider that, but certainly that's your call. There's a number of floor finishes, a huge host of alternate floor finishes. And again, they're remaining there for price control to ensure competition, because we didn't want the terrazzo guy who went terrazzo in the hallway to run away with the price. We didn't want certain flooring manufacturers to try to run away with the price. So just keeping them honest, knowing you are on budget, we just think this is the best value in terms of keeping what's in the base bid and not taking some of those leads. They're all leads. And you can look out and you get bid tablets, you've already seen them, I think they're posted on $4. That should be posted on the board, right? So there's a whole detail list, and we'll show you that, but again, we're not recommending it. There was a alternate light fixture, again, to manage competition. There's a preferred light fixture, but for $19,900 in additional cost, we just didn't think that was worthwhile.
So to refresh my memory, with the 4 classrooms, yes, the schools are the same size?
Yes.
So that speaks to the equality piece we talked about last week.
Both are planned as 7 teams. The DDEC alternate would take 1 of the other 6.
Just to be clear, for those who aren't intimate with the process, that's a double negative up there. What it says is, we are going to build 4 classrooms that we could have taken out of the project had we decided we needed to for whatever reason, cost or otherwise. So we're gonna go ahead and build those classrooms.
Thank you, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
And at that price, I would absolutely recommend those 4 classrooms. It gives us the additional capacity that we need. The science room is being built no matter what. So it gives us those 4 classrooms. If we see the growth in the future, then we have it. And even as it stands right now with our middle school capacity as we exist today, we would be opening up both of these middle schools if we were 50-50 at 86.8% capacity, which is not a bad place for us to be. And that's using the highest, that very highest capacity numbers that we could use. So we're somewhere in the high 80s from a capacity standpoint. So
That's using the 4 classrooms, is that what you said?
that's with that included. Yeah, so it's really, it's a great place for us to be. And as Ruth said, for $391,000, it's pennies on the dollar for anything that we would try to add down the road.
What would it look like later?
How much would it be if you added it? Like I said, I think it's probably 4 times that.
It's about $1.5 million truly to add it.
And that's not including everything else we'd have to go through. Right. You know, it wouldn't be just like, okay, go build them. We'd have to start with approvals, we'd have to go through everything all over again, even for that.
Yeah, we were honestly quite pleased when that figure came in. Very, very pleasantly surprised, yes.
Yeah, I seem to remember it, much higher, even more than 3 times that amount.
Well, when we first looked at the number with Dewey, we said, hey, what would it cost us if we took a full team out? It also included a health classroom, I think, and a science room. So there were more than 4 rooms, it was 6, I think 6 rooms perhaps.
And then also with the design, the way these classrooms are, we showed you where they are, if you don't remember. They're such in a location, the architect came up with a good solution where it's actually a very minimalistic extra space for the access to the classroom. So there's not a long single-sided hallway.
But they kind of cluster in the corners, if I remember right.
No, they're actually the ones, if you remember, we at the end decided that the
Yes,
best one.
right, that's what they were.
They were.
And then we switched it out to an area that was more favorable and less costly to try to build in 2 corners. As a stretch of 4 classrooms along a hallway.
More cost-effective.
More cost-effective than the solution.
That,
Your recollection is correct.
all good questions.
So we,
So
just
those,
$1.1 million in the alternates, that's part of the,
that's in the budget that we.
so that's all, so this is just, and the 370, this amount has already,
No, we haven't taken this.
okay.
We haven't taken this subtraction. And the subtractions that I did list there, because I would need 2 slides to show you all the floor finishes. So those we haven't taken. So you could take a lot more, but we're not recommending. Okay. So that's that summary, and then I think, keep going here. So this is like the bids, and you can't see it, I apologize, it's on board docs, but just a lot of alternates. The big key thing there can point to it is we did get very competitive bids. You can see they're very close.
Very tight, 33, 32, 34, 33, very tight grouping numbers, which shows us that really that clear and good competitive, good documentation, and good competition for a sizable project. I mean, really.
I can't stand it, is there anything where there's like a weird outlier where the low bid is much less?
You'll always find one, but not in this case. There will be some that you will see in a minute on the next slide, but on this one, they're actually pretty close. So like, for example, here on the mechanical one, you will see, like, if you want to see the low one is 4.9, and there's this guy up right next to it, 6.2. But you can see we've got a lot of 5.6s, 5.4, 5.2, 5.3, 4, 4.9, you know, so again, they should have gone like next to it, it's just hard to put all this together in a slideshow to try to do. But this is all on board docs, so mechanically, you can see we've got 9 bidders.
Very good competition mechanically.
And then electrical is, again, we've got 4, 7 bidders, and again, very tight, you see BSI. On this one, I'll just point out to you, you have to be careful with some of the alternates, and if the contractor did not get an alternate, and you want to take that alternate, then that contractor is obviously you can't be selected. So that happened with electric, of course, it's happened right here.
The apparent low in the base bid, but we look for the bid for
He doesn't
solar
submit
and
bids.
put a number, so we can't compare his bid to anyone else's bid who all included that same offer. So he can't be considered,
So
but
he
he
didn't do himself any favors.
it's a non-responsive bid, unfortunately.
So that, I just have to guess, because it doesn't have capabilities.
His guess would be $1 less than the
Today it would be. Anyway, so keep going, so then electrical, then we have plumbing, a lot of plumbing bids again, very competitive.
Very tight, 2.83, 3.2, 3.43,
Yeah.
2.3.
Very good. And then the environmental, we got two. On this one, we did have a challenge with the environmental because although we're getting bids today, we wanted to give you all the numbers. If you recognize, this environmental work's not being done for 2 years. Right, so, but again, it was below our budget, even this number, and so I think we got rid of it.
So do they take the risk of the inflated costs?
Well, they're just basically removing us, that there's really no material, anything for them, it's labor, they're just removing stuff and taking it out. I mean, they're
So the way grids project out that far, so there's little risk. It's not like,
and it's a small,
But it's on there.
right.
it's a small amount, of course. So then again, I just put this again now after we've done all that, just to remind you again, right, that your question was right. So those numbers include what we've recommended. And with that, we are under budget, close to $3 million on the budget. Okay? So, now Newtown,
I'm sorry, can I ask one more question on that 2 million piece?
the ACE grant,
The ACE grant. So part of the ACE grant is you guys take the fee.
we have a fee for
You
providing
worked
that.
in, that's worked in there too?
Well, it's in the fees permit.
Okay, so that is, so it's not, okay, awesome,
It's already in there.
perfect.
Thank you for bringing that up. And so what we did here is just, again, a quick summary while we gave you, when you look at a building, a lot of people want to know, okay, what does it cost per square foot? Now, there's some, some subjectivity here. It's not 100% perfect. A lot of people say, hey, we built this building for $200 a square foot. So we're just trying to give you that relationship. So the building's about 185,000 square feet. The construction cost, now that is with all of those alternates that we want. So we've added some value-added stuff, okay? The site work, including utilities for this project, is pretty large, so you subtract that out. And then the demolition and asbestos numbers, subtract it out. And you get a building cost, and if you divide that into the square footage, you're at 215, which today, with the value of the building you're getting, that is a really significantly excellent value. Because I know if anyone were budgeting a building today, you would probably be in the 240 range, 240 to $250 a square foot.
So can we get some potential comparisons documented, just in case we ever get asked a question out there? I'd love to be able to.
I think if you have some historical data on recent bids between the two architects and doing, we could provide something to
Only
share.
because I think that's great. I mean,
It is.
That's fantastic. I'd love to be able to recognize that.
Right. Because it's all.
Yeah.
So, the achievements, you want to get that?
Yeah.
Again, we're under budget. We're currently on schedule, assuming that we get, at least 5 and hopefully more board members tomorrow evening that are in support of the project. We'll remain on schedule. Again, the lead goal, sustainability, energy efficient building, a really quality building with sustainable materials. We talk a lot about capital costs, summer costs, and some of the materials we use in this building, we're not going to be going back in there in 12 years to replace floors or deal with some of the challenges we have in other buildings. We have quality products, we have walls that are sustainable, just all around solid building.
And I just, if I could add, the energy efficient piece, you don't want to underestimate that. One of the beauties of doing the lead, there's some painstaking paperwork and all that, but the mechanical engineer team, all of us were held accountable to develop a full energy model that precisely measured and defined how this building's gonna perform from an energy function standpoint. We are getting almost, I think, 16 points on that category alone, which means we're beating the code required energy compliant building by, I think, almost 30%. So, long-term value, you can't underestimate. So it's not just a fun point. We're actually producing an energy efficient building with a fantastic envelope, a good HVAC system, excellent lighting systems that are LED lighting systems, and everything. So that's, some data harvesting. So there's, it is a good energy efficient building. We're not just getting points. Okay?
Can you just go back one slide? 215.22 times 185,000 square feet.
It's 39,700.
So, right, so
Plus less demolition of the existing building and the asbestos abatement of $1 million, less the site work of 5.5. Brings you back to the bid number with,
this went so fast, I
Right,
couldn't process that.
when people compare buildings, the variables of site work,
No, I
you
understand that,
try to
but
take
I-
that out. That's why I said it's an attempt to kind of give you a baseline.
I had a calculator with that slide, so I just need it.
No,
Thank you.
it's not perfect.
Yeah.
So, next steps, tomorrow evening, we'll be bringing the bids, the alternates, motions to you. Also, a motion to approve Plan Con Part F, Attachment C, Plan Con G, Plan Con H documents. I will tell you that everyone has worked very hard, the architects, the financial people, to turn these documents around in record time, to get these things in front of you tomorrow. Award construction testing, which is also some numbers we'll have in front of you tomorrow, and construction waste management contracts for this project only, which is also part of the lead process and points. May of 16 would be the groundbreaking of the project. Again, these are all assumptions now that we've approved the project. June, actual construction will begin. June of 18, the new building will be complete. August of 18, students will occupy the new facility. And June of 19, the demolition of the existing middle school will be complete and the fields restored in that area. And we will treat that piece of the project much like the new construction. It will be carefully fenced and safe from kids that are in the new building. It'll be its own little construction site phased outside of the new building.
So from the time that school shutters to the time it's no longer there, we won't have to worry about kids making that their own private grade location.
No raise.
That's I can come up with quick. But it's, so we literally have the capability to lock that building up, so we don't have to worry about it.
For sure.
It's gonna come down quick, it's gonna be site work, so as soon as they move out, that's
Right.
first summer, they're gonna be doing the asbestos, that 200,000. And so it won't be accessible.
Awesome.
Doug, could you do me a favor? Could you go back to the slide with the 4 classrooms?
With the what?
With the 4 classrooms, the alternates?
Oh, so the plan?
I feel like that language, which may be,
Right there.
Okay.
Back.
is there some other way that we can state alternates not being recommended, to Ed's point about the double negative? I feel like though it's probably industry language, I feel like it's going to mislead people. And I feel like it's going to look like we're throwing 4 extra classrooms in, and this was an effort to hide it.
This
I'm
is
afraid people are gonna-
Certainly not.
No, of course not.
Yeah, I hope not.
But
This is
I,
the language that
Is in the bid,
it's in the bid
following the
document,
bid,
so it's parts
I
of it.
don't want to.
It's, as you say, it's industry language to not do something and you ask for a number to delete it.
can you put an asterisk and just a notation at the bottom?
Sure.
Are you saying you can't make it, instead of alternates not being recommended?
Well,
You can't change
normally-
that verbiage
But
at all?
normally
We
the
can
alternate
change-
is
We
to
can
add.
change that. Yeah, we can
On
change
this,
it.
we can.
Alternate being recommended include.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when the public sees this, I feel that they may feel that we've,
Or just have a little part that says, price, things were originally bid with the inclusion of these classes, believing that was an option that was.
So basically it includes 7 teams, is essentially.
We would just put a clarification, the base bid recommended includes classrooms for 17. Would that be acceptable?
That would be great. I think the concern, like, if somebody sees this slide too much down the road without context for this
Right.
meeting, that's what I'm talking about. I think that would be perfect.
I was in no way speculating that you were doing anything to keep anything from the vote. There's so much misinformation out there
No, you're dealing with the whole different level.
Yeah.
of trying to food shop.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll add that for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, we won't have this tomorrow, but we'll just add it and put it for record's sake, we'll work with Matt to make sure it's posted appropriately. So, before we move to Holland, why don't we just go ahead and see if there's any questions relative to Newtown? Yes?
Will the public be able to see the specific costs and everything that you said will be in the board packet tomorrow? Like, will that be up on the web
The bid
somewhere?
tab will be available on the public site. The motions that include the total cost for each contract
Yeah.
would be public, and
Would they be able to see the bidders and stuff like that or not?
That's all in the motion language, right?
the bidders, but not the bids of all.
No, but the total amount of money
That is.
and the bidders is all in the motion language.
Oh, to what
The
detail?
bids have available to board members. I mean, that's available through, do you guys provide, is that on your?
It's public, and we can give it to wherever we want.
Right.
Is that what you just showed? Yeah, on your slides?
Yeah, I mean, it's on this PowerPoint, so you have it.
Oh, okay.
Is this PowerPoint available?
Yeah, it'll be posted. It'll be
By
posted.
tomorrow?
But I think Matt posted by tomorrow, no, tonight?
The YouTube is live now.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
but
if you post but whenever you post the document to the website is when it'll be posted. So if you
Okay,
haven't.
so I
posted
take this, I
tomorrow,
turn it into a PDF and I put it on our site as well.
It'll be in the facilities section.
And the other thing I don't understand as a layperson, and I've been to a lot of these meetings, is that you put alternates in the bid, which you accepted and some that you didn't accept. And you're making the recommendation to the board of a package of accepted and not accepted. Is that how this is gonna go?
Well, we went through each one.
Yeah.
that we recommended, so we went through almost each one. We went
But the
through
board
almost-
doesn't have to vote individually on each one.
No. we'll
They're
list it.
within the package total.
The board motion will say recommend approval of Acme Construction, including alternates 1, 2, 3, 6, 10, 14,
And it was just for their information tonight, not,
Correct.
okay.
And, yeah, and Nancy, to your question, any discussion around any of those specific
Yeah.
alternates, that's what this work session in the
Okay.
committee setting is all about.
I've never seen so many alternates like that, that's why I asked. Okay, and then are the solar panels, the bid for that, is that within the mechanical and HVAC bid? Or is that in the general contractor, or where is the money for the solar contract budgeted within the project?
Well, the electrical contractor is providing that work. The budget is essentially through the ACE grant, $2 million.
Okay, so you're paying for that through the grant? Oh, okay. And I really like the font on the slide that says we're the ones we're not gonna accept. So if you have any future presentation, if you have a
font
bigger
size?
font for the people that are sitting in this room, it would be very appreciated. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? I'm a little surprised at how short the duration of the warranty is. So I'm assuming that's just for the labor, the contract with labor to come out and fix the farm, or is that also material? I'm thinking back to the issue we had with Welsh and elementary school.
So there's two different things we're talking about. When we talk about warranty work, we're talking about work that was installed that isn't necessarily in compliance with, or something that was installed correctly but failed within a year. If we're talking about deficient work where materials are actually defective, like that cast stone was, there's a deficiency timeframe, then you can go after work, and then there's just plain old warranty work. If a guy puts a floor in and after 6 months, the floor tops start to lift off, then they're gonna come back and fix those because there's 4 months left in there, 8 months and 4 months left, so they'll fix it. In this case, we have 2 years of that type of thing. There could be arguments over why it came up, and then we're gonna find out why and who. But defective work's a different story, and I forget the statute of limitations in terms of how long we had to actually address that, 10 years or?
7 years. So are we doing everything we can to make sure that we're not in that situation again? Is there a way that we can extend that, whether we subsidize it by some kind of additional warranty that we purchased? Because that came in at $3 million, so we ended up being less, if I remember correctly. But that's a big number. I agree. So is there any way to hedge against that?
The best way, and I'll tell you, so you raised a really good point. This is a very tough decision because you pay for warranties usually. Okay, so for example, what we're saying is a 2-year warranty. The roof has a 25-year warranty. Compressor for the chiller has a 5-year compressor warranty. There's all kinds of other warranties for components. The 2-year warranty, as Doug said, is parts and labor. Now you're covered. You know, that door handle doesn't work.
It's like an umbrella.
Yeah, it's so we're paying something for it. We just thought it was an unbelievably good value, so we recommend it. Okay. The best way to prevent the rest of it, my opinion, is buy a good roof. So forget the warranty. Just get a good roof, make sure it's installed right. Quality control. You know, pick the right products and get them installed properly. That's your best protection. You know,
Isn't that what we did with Welsh? I mean, I know no one, right, it's easy because no one at this table was involved in that, right? But I'm sure that the contractors, the architects, and everyone involved say, this is the best product out there that we're doing. So.
Well, I listen, I wasn't involved in Welsh, so it's easy to sit here and say things, as you say. But I will say that through my history of being in this business, I've learned that different products are better than others, and some that I would never touch again after experiencing nightmares on projects. And precast concrete stone is a man-made thing, while there's certifications companies can have to make it. It doesn't always mean that the quality control isn't always necessarily there unless you have a testing agency that's hired by you that's going out to their shop to watch them produce it. So in this case, we use limestone because it's a natural material. It's cut from the ground. It comes out as a natural stone, and the quality, the sustainability of that material is very good. It's proven to be good.
so we've done as many things. Another one
Like
we did
brick.
was the brick.
The brick veneer, a lot of companies will say, well, it has to be severe weather brick, it has to meet certain ASTM requirements. And they'll say, give us the documentation to show that the brick meets it. Well, we do better than that. I don't want a documentation from a batch you made 5 years ago for someone else. I want you to take the brick for our project, take it to a testing agency, and have all those tests performed and show us that that brick is in fact good, that we're getting. So look, they're doing that. So there's a lot of things that we'll do. Welsh has a single ply rubber roof that we're going to replace. We're going to extend the warranty on this year after 15 years. We're going to put a 25-year roof on our building because I don't believe in investing all that money in a facility and then putting it in an expensive place.
So who is responsible for the quality control? Who
So
would be?
it's a combination of us, obviously, our boots on the ground, and our third-party testing agencies, so Warren, myself, our people. Obviously, the architect and their consultants have, and then we're fortunate to have somebody who's highly qualified with Doug also, providing additional oversight on all of that. So it's a combination of those things. And the reality is if you specify the right products, if you make sure the quality control is happening, and then obviously installation, you limit it. I mean, you know, this is a prototype building, and that's the problem with construction, okay? It hasn't been built before, and so you couldn't have found all the problems like you do with a car or a piece of equipment, and then, you know, they take some years to prototype these things and find all the mistakes, and then they're still in production. So that's the problem with construction, and that's why there's, you know, a lot of times when they build a house or whatever it is, there's always something because you know, we will do as good a job as anybody could possibly do for you. But it's not a guarantee that there won't be issues you have to solve. You've got the 2-year warranty, you've got the performance bond for defects, you've got all these safeguards. and we'll use them where we need to use them. I mean, I think that's the simplest answer, unfortunately.
So, the equipment and the materials have their own warranties,
Yes.
and this 2-year extension then is just on the workmanship?
And materials, certain equipment has extended warranties, not all of them. For example, be realistic, lines, we're hanging some lines there. Lines don't come with a long warranty, and now you got a 2-year warranty on the lines. Okay. Another example would be
Door hardware is a good.
door hardware is another one. Door hardware doesn't come with any special warranty. It might come with a finish warranty that it's not going to rust, but operational warranty doesn't come with any extra. It's hinges to get ready for
All the casework, all the cabinets, all of that.
And so it's just so many components.
What was the cost of that?
190.
100,000 for all 4 problems. So that's not just one, that's the general contractor, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical. So they all have.
Sounds like we probably get that back.
It's definitely,
We think, you have
Insurance.
one water heater issue, one compressor issue somewhere, even on some of these equipment warranties, it covers the parts. So they give you the part. Now you have to get someone higher and remove the old one, put the new one in. They'll send you the compressor, and that could cost you twice as much to do it. So in the 2 years, that'll all be done.
So the testing that's getting approved tomorrow night is the third-party testing that we've mentioned, and that is a company that works directly for us that's going to check the bottom of every footing to make sure the soils are compacted. They're going to check all of the rebar that are set in the ground before the concrete's poured. Are they on chairs, appropriately set, in the right sizes? Are they wired properly before the concrete is going to fall apart? Is it going to stay in place? They'll check the strength of the concrete. Exterior concrete should be air entrained so that it doesn't crack as much as they'll make sure it's air entrained. We'll do all those things. They'll check the welds, they'll check the steel, they'll check masonry. They're going to be looking at every material, everything that's happening out there. So they're going to work directly for us as well and report to us. Many people have the general contractor hire some of those testing responsibilities. And I've never seen a bad report back from the general contractor that their stuff is problematic. When they work for us, we're going to hear great changes. All right, on to Holland Middle School again. Going to here, we have to refer to those. Bids were opened on March 29th, yesterday. Put together a lot of information in a short amount of time. Spent a lot of time with the team evaluating, calling people, checking on things. Good competition again. Project is under budget. The same things that we have at Newtown. Lead goal, sustainable, energy efficient building. Value-added alternatives incorporated. On track to receive our grant and on track to receive PD reimbursement if there is reimbursement. But in any case, we are putting the district in position to collect reimbursement should we see that money flow again. So we are in good position to get that. A good team here, Lobar Incorporated is the parent low for the general construction. MDR or Regan is a company that I know I've worked with, you guys have worked with, a good company for HVAC. Again, BSI Electrical Contractors is low on this project. Warren touched base with them about their abilities, the manpower to manage these 2 projects at the same time. We've confirmed that they have the capacity to do even more than that. So we're confident in that. J.R. Reynolds has done plumbing work for us in the past and has done a great job. And I know you guys. Sargent Enterprises has helped us with environmental issues throughout the district on many things. They do nice work. All in all, we're at $40,800,000 on Holland Middle School, and we'll touch on that budget shortly.
Yeah, speaking of which, so this is almost like the same story, just with slightly lower numbers. As you're aware, our budget for Holland was about $5 million less than Newtown. And we're basically seeing almost the same savings or the difference between the budget and the actual. So I won't go through them each one unless you want me to. It's almost like a repeat story, portion.
Just can you remind me again what FF means?
For furniture, fixtures, and equipment, that was the one we said we talked about why we increased it.
Yeah.
And it's not been spent, that's our budget for it. Okay. The one that's gonna be completely, you're gonna be awarding is 40 million. By the way, the testing and stuff also is in that, not only is the architect fee is in that 4.9 million, but also our fee, our base grant fee is pointed out, as well as the testing, as well as some numbers for permits and stuff, so all that's in there.
If I'm remembering it right, the FF&E on Newtown was considerably lower
No.
in the budget.
Yeah, yeah, I apologize.
You missed one?
No, what happened was, I apologize, we changed that budget after we got the Newtown, we've been sitting with Newtown bids for a month, so I apologize, my administrative assistant was using, that was at 400 also. I apologize, that's a mistake on our part. We had updated it once we got the Newtown bids, because we knew we would be doing it, and I forgot to go back to the original budget. That's my fault.
So which is correct?
It should be 400, was this should be 400, let's scratch that.
Okay.
Yeah, and the rest of the money was in the, we had a bigger contingency. The money was in the contingency, so we moved it from contingency after Doug and I talked with Newtown.
So the bottom line
It
now
moved
is-
from here to here, the math is accurate, yeah. You can go back to your Part D numbers and you'll see what it is. So there we are, and then obviously the adjustment will be explained, okay? We'll bring a whole sheet together at the end of both of them, so you'll see them side by side in a minute. Okay. So I won't belabor this. I'll go through these quickly because they're very similar again. So we've got, on this one, to go with the Garland roof, over here, we're actually saving $50,000, okay? So don't ask me to explain it. This is why we do the alternates. I know people say sometimes we're crazy, but sometimes it works here, man. I know, I don't have a good explanation. It is what it is, we're taking it. All right, we're running with it. We got similar savings on the HVAC with sticking with Johnson. If you remember, the other one was close to 100, around 100,000 also. The solar roof panels out here, we're at 7%. You can see the numbers almost exactly prorated. It's pretty darn close. And then again here, this building is very complex getting it out of the ground. The additions, especially the ones up against the building. I don't know if you remember us telling you, but we have to undercut the existing soils pretty deep, and we've also got some micro piles being installed up against the building to stabilize the existing building, because the existing building is built on caissons. I don't know if you know this. This area had some deep, so we've got some deep footings, and to offset that cost, what we decided here is to do a special excavation. So we're doing some pretty deep, almost 14-foot excavations to remove all the soils and bring back stone. This alternate gives us all stone. If we don't take this, going back to your thing, there's even more risk here because we're going much deeper.
Okay, you moved on to the solar array quickly. Is that actually a bigger array, and that's why we get more?
Yes, it's
Okay.
7%, I'm sorry.
No, I figured, I just wanted, so the size is what.
Yeah, the other one was 3%. The building's almost the same size.
Got it, perfect.
So Andy, we're using new roof and some of the existing roof to
Yep.
facilitate that 7%.
Yep.
We have that same sod alternate, which again, we're recommending, it's much less here, we're not doing the whole field, it's a much smaller area. Upgrade locker doors, it's that same locker door, so we're trying to keep, I mean, I'll have to tell you, the architects work very well with us and everybody, so whatever we did on one building, we tried to do on the other as much as possible. There are some nuances and differences, just with the space layout.
There's a lot of clarity though. It was a great team, good collaborative effort through the whole design.
There's your outdoor cafeteria seating.
Where would that be?
It's, you want to explain it?
Yeah, this is out, this is actually around the back side of the building. Oh, there you go.
Oh, right there. Go
Yeah, it's
to the other side.
Well,
You want
The
it
cap,
right, it's gonna be right here on the, oops.
It's back in this, it's right,
It's gonna be right there.
okay, so it's really not,
well, it's tough, because you have a cafeteria that's kind of internal, and out here's the bus, drop off. This is the main entry. This is, wooded lot back in here. So this is the only green space that is somewhat convenient to the dining area.
So it's not far, but it's not as.
any principles.
Yeah, they want
And I'm just trying to understand, because like there were issues, I know South wanted to have outdoor lunch, and they have actually grass right outside the cafeteria, and there were issues about who's watching the kids and how, and this just seems to me so far, with no get used.
This is again embedded, they do this out now, teachers. Yeah.
Well, it was a tough battle. And it was right, and the door was there, the window looked out on it. This.
South has actually come to us with a proposal to build an outdoor seating area at an area that hasn't gone any further than discussions with us. If they come back with actual sketches and more interest in certain agreements to facilities.
Yeah, I'm just asking from a practical.
Student projects, not.
Right, I heard about that, but I totally love the idea of outdoor,
It's actually very nice.
and I think it's good, I think it's good for the kids. I mean, when I'm at work, I can take a walk for half an hour too, it's just good, but I just think, I'm just questioning the practicality of like, within that building, so it's like,
What?
you have to walk, or
It's not,
how you manage that, and how you bring your food, and
and it is limited in terms of the amount
not
of
big.
seating that they could accommodate, so it's not something that you're gonna put 150 students in.
No,
there. It's gonna be something that
30,
you take through over time.
30, 40
Both
seats.
buildings are the same way, just because of the space limitations. But it's an opportunity to take some students out every day.
There's boundaries established. There are walls and things that establish where that seating area is. That was the 32,000.
So before you move on from that, the principals and teachers did sign off on that, is that what you mean? Or is it up for a second?
Principals did, yeah, it doesn't affect the teachers. They don't oversee the cafeteria or the student lunch, the principals do.
I mean, do you need more staff to have like an extra lunch monitor or something?
If they feel comfortable that the administrator would be out there with them, so they didn't have to take but very often the cafeteria, one of our administrators are there anyhow. So, it's not an uncommon thing, so now, there are students go outside to sit down and eat, one of the cafeteria monitors, or the administrator goes out with them, and just keep an eye on things. And we wouldn't put students out there without supervision.
But you're confident that we can do that without additional staff, is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what
We will not add staff for that.
I can read that headline now.
Let's call it an al fresco
I don't mean to
dining.
be snarky. No, I don't mean to be snarky about it, it's just when it came
No,
up.
it's
And in
legitimate.
high school, when I was a PTO president, the reason why it was initially rejected was because there was insufficient staff to monitor it. And so, I mean, I recognize it's a different time or whatever, it's just, and believe me, I would want that in the building, I would like all our buildings to have that, but it's just how, if we're gonna pay for it, better be used.
And this one, unlike the one in Newtown, can serve as an outdoor classroom space for, because the seats about, the class, yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's another additional use, not what the original intent or design was, doesn't have a courtyard, but Newtown does, that would accommodate that.
So it's like table, like, you can't be table?
Well, all we're buying here is patio surface, the walls, the boundaries.
Yeah, there's a wall of seating, just like the one at Newtown.
Thank you, guys.
Can you go back to the alternates?
I want to try, I was a little distracted, I'm so sorry. So you're just paying for the patio? Where, this, all we're doing is patio and the furniture? Is that what you said?
No, the furniture would come out of the 1.7.
Okay.
We do better because we're not gonna pay contractor markup on some things, so if we can minimize markup on certain things. I'll take it, it's gonna try to minimize.
I was just gonna say that the buses aren't out there while the lunches are going on. So if what is the sidewalk had a little retaining wall, and there was something that could be put out there, it could be long and skinny, and they'd be so closer to the cafeteria. And it could be like an 8th grade only privilege or something.
It's a little bit of a kind of a heat island effect, there's no shading, there's no trees, it's asphalt and concrete and not real friendly for, I'm not, not disagreeing.
Bistro.
It's like a sidewalk cafe.
French bistro.
You could have that. Anyway, so that was the 32,000, 32,000, it's now here.
Yeah, and then this is one where we wanted to kind of just monitor the value of this and after looking at the value of some additional finishes to maybe enhance the lobby, we just felt that what was in the base bid was adequate, so we're taking the deduct of $191,000 for that. And the same for the railing system, we looked at maybe using some glass on some of these railings in that library section. And we decided, again, after looking at the number and the durability, we're just going to stick with a more conventional railing system. And then the crosswalk at Buck Road, again, this is needed, but we wanted to see what the price was. I think you guys have heard about this, and that's the $82,000.
We were very fortunate because we've always felt that the number, and I included, would be higher. And of the 6 bidders, the lowest bid is this number. We were actually fortunate to get the low bid of 82. The township estimated at 72. All the other was around 150. So we were very lucky to get the low bidder with a good number.
Is that with the retaining wall and everything?
Yeah, that's a low retaining wall, that's the crosswalks, it's the timing, it's all of the lighting devices.
Right. Oh, and then this is again, yeah, this is the light and shading protection that we did also at the other one. So that's the total of, when it comes to over 412, because we take some pieces, yes.
Wait, but on that crosswalk, I'm sorry to go back, there was that issue where you're coming down East Holland Road and there's that like little bubble island.
Pork chop.
Yeah, whatever. Is that?
This is replacing the pork chop in its entirety. It's a swatch of asphalt around it, of patching it and, repaving it and sealing it. It's the crosswalk to the corner where the developer will pick it up at that point. It's a retaining wall at the wooded lot on the other side of the road, adjacent to the residential property. A low retaining wall and the sidewalk over there, crosswalk to us, and then we continue the sidewalk up East Holland Road to our side.
And so does this fall into that whole program? I'm always like a skeptic, so they bid 82,000 and everybody else was like 150. Does that make you say there's something they're missing here?
One other contractor had 90, and then the other 4 were all 150. There was an 82, a 90, and then,
this to me is that other anomaly with the roof, it's impossible, we can analyze it all, yeah, I wouldn't have a good answer.
So, but at the end of the day, if it ends up costing them more than they think, it doesn't matter, because this is what they did.
Correct.
Same contractor bid, the same number on that roof, or are we different
It's a different contractor, but we also don't know who the sub is, so there's a lot of variability, unfortunately.
But all of the contractors on that alternate had Adidas at 40 to 50,000. So it wasn't one guy at -50 and everybody else at plus.
But not, he was compared to Newtown.
Compared to Newtown,
I don't think you can do that.
You can't compare.
Why is it, again, I know you said we don't want to analyze it, but I kind of want to analyze it, because what if we're overpaying in Newtown? That's my thought.
No,
You know the market, so I'm
Yeah,
going to trust your advice on it.
There's just too many variables. It's sort of like saying, well, why was this a little bitter? Is he really a little bitter? I mean, it gets complicated. The problem is there's so many variables. What was the roofer's price? Did the roofer give this guy a better deal? Did the roofer have a better relationship with the actual roofing manufacturer? He's looking at the timing of his project and when he's going to do it. I really have apologize.
It was a pretty significant ad, right, for Newtown, wasn't it?
It was an ad.
Yeah, but was it significant, or was it?
No, make a roof area.
Much bigger roof.
Much bigger.
You can't do it that way. This is what the addition is only, this is going off of the addition.
I see.
The existing part is getting repaired in the base bid for the repair. The roof basically remains.
So Newtown is about $2 a square foot. I have this in the letter to you guys, Mark. About $2 a square foot ad, it extended 5 years. On Holland, it's a deduct of about $1 a square foot to extend it 5 years. So it's a no-brainer on the deduct. And on the ad of $2 a square foot for 5 years, it's still well worth it because to extend it 10 years with the coating is $10 a square foot. So there's definitely value in extending.
And then there was some that we did not recommend, and if you want, we will have that same designation on the bottom of this slide. Also, but there's the 4 classrooms, our famous 4 classrooms, it's 416,000 here. You know, slightly higher, but still not a good decision, I think, to accept it. There were many floor finishes that we did not recommend, also for the same reasons I talked about. On this one, we have a different type of canopy structure because of the issues with the frontage of this building. I think David did a nice job, his company did a nice job of trying to pronounce and designate the front entrance. But we wanted to, again, do a cost control because we knew there was some cost associated with that, you know, doing that work. I think it has some practical advantages in addition to just obviously giving you a sense of the addition. So we're not recommending it because of the bids we got and also the value I think you get.
We're recommending keeping it. We're not
Right,
recommending-
so we're gonna spend the money, and my question would be, is it functional versus aesthetic?
Here's the big issue with this. What this allows you to do is it allows you to pull your queuing line even further up.
That's
So
what
it gets you 4 to 5 more cars in the queuing line.
So it helps us with that street issue there.
Absolutely.
It does, it forces cars to pull up to the canopy and gets things more internal, not out back. That would benefit stuff.
If you notice, we did try to give you notes on each one, basically what I'm saying.
There's more notes in the letter that you guys will get in board docs.
And then this was some tablet arms for the mezzanine. This auditorium is, got an extra function because of the tightness of the site. So we have a lot, basically a balcony type, and so those two can be kind of carved out into 2 LGIs. And this is just to delete. Thank you. Sorry, just to delete the tablet arms for the seats to keep them in. So by not accepting this, we will get tablet arms.
We want that.
Yes.
We want that.
Yeah, no, we want that. I'm saying we want that.
So that was $7,000. And then this next one is we thought maybe we could capitalize on moving those existing bleachers because then they're old, but they're still somewhat functional. But for $7,000, we didn't think that would be the risk to take. And then auditorium seating. This was for competition purposes to make sure what the seat that we like didn't take advantage of us. And for $14,000 savings, we think we gave the value, so we shouldn't. So that's really the story.
And again, we can look at that, we can ask our.
You don't understand what you're talking
about. Proposed alternate to bring samples in, look, and if there's value to the alternative, we could consider it at a later date, but like you said, this doesn't.
What are tablet arms? I have no idea what you're talking about.
The little, they slide up and slide over, so you can actually put a paper and work at your.
So you're removing them and they can't be classrooms?
No, it's like on the bleachers, it allows you to use that as a classroom, so you have a little
Okay.
desk in your seat.
This is this double negative.
Yes, that's very confusing when it says to
Where we are
remove
again.
them. It makes people think you want to take them away.
There's dividers in those classrooms, right?
We do that so we can stay.
There are, you can take.
In the auditorium.
David, when you divide it into 2 halves, do you remember the count each
Yeah.
half?
Oh,
I think, all right, I didn't know, but it could be 1 large room or 2 or.
I think it's almost 40 in each. So
Right. So it could be 80
Yeah.
or 40 in each up top, and then you have tablet arms so it can function as a classroom. Or the tablet arms stay down, the partitions stay open, and it's the additional seating for the auditorium below, so it's flexible space.
I don't, excuse me, recall a canopy at Newtown Middle School.
There is, well, on both sides, but not as long as this one because this has a different site functions.
Because the traffic issues are different. Okay.
That and also, I mean, to be honest, it's a brand new school, so Robin had the ability to create a sense of entry in a new design that Holland didn't have. And part of the program challenge on Holland was, hey, tell people where to enter this building, because right now, no one knows where in the world to go. So part of that program challenge was for him to create that sense of entry in an existing building. So I think the canopy is part of his sense of entry, and Robin had the advantage of new construction to create it from, from the ground up.
by the way, it's 80 in each. It's 160
80
total.
each.
Yeah.
You kind of remember.
I was 50% of the way there. Sorry. I did have that. Yes.
So this is again the details of each bid, and again, I'm not going to do it, but
It's similar, everything's very close as the other project was, and you'll get a better look at this on board docs.
Mechanical, a bunch of bids there again. Electrical, next slide, a bunch of bids there.
Electrical again, we mentioned the no bid by the contractor.
So why would you submit a bid that didn't bid everything? I don't even understand that.
It's
Put all
a
that
good
energy
question.
into it.
Another, I guess you hope
They
that,
shouldn't do it.
you hope that the owner's not going to select that alternate when you do it. You know, That's the only reason.
Anyway.
Plumbing, environmental, we had 3 environmental bids, and the reason we had 2 on the last project, the poor guy on his way to the project to submit his bid had an actual car accident and couldn't meet the timeline for submission, which is a shame. So we're fortunate to get this project on the second bid.
If you go back one, I'll just point out, just so that there's full disclosure on these.
On the
alternates, mechanical. You notice on the mechanical too, we have an asterisk under Michael, so you can ask me why.
It's just 200, 200, 200, 100, 200,000.
Right, but the point is, we have on the form, you have to say whether it's add or deduct, and he forgot to designate that. So he could have, if it was the right one. So these 2 items, we have sent these to Mr. Cox's office, just so he's aware in case somebody were to ask. And so we just wanted you to be aware. Okay.
So how do you communicate with the contractors that don't win a bid? They can get any kind of notification?
Basically, this becomes public. Once you guys make a decision tomorrow, we share any information with anybody who asks, but we don't have them necessarily. I mean, most of them are active bid opening.
They generally call us. I mean, they're all lobbying.
It's usually only 2 people that are worried. The first 2, so the second guy usually calls and says what happened.
Somebody's got to get
I can't see it. If they had done the math appropriately with the other.
If they had done their math appropriately,
If it wasn't, maybe you don't know.
If this was plus 200, no. If this is a deduct of 200, then they would have been below bid. If you ask them now, would this been a negative? I think I know their answer. But we don't know what their answer was.
Well, we also don't have a bid in item 3D.
Right, so if we wanted to consider that alternate, they wouldn't have been able to get the job because they didn't.
But let me tell you this, so we're taking the negative 115 because we think we know that's what the district would like. And by putting this way, we got what we wanted and we got $115,000 savings. So we won. So let's just not worry about it.
Wait, but if the 200,000 was in the negative, we would have won better.
Yes,
Right?
possibly, but we don't know that.
But just intuitively.
It's not intuitive.
So that's just sloppy.
We missed it.
Here's an example. Barfield, add 351. Freeman, deduct 50. So
we don't know.
You don't know if it's an add or a deduct.
I'm just looking in row 3B, they're all deducts except for the one that isn't.
Right.
But if you allowed them to say that it was supposed to be a deduct, the next contractor's gonna sue you.
Anyway, it's a sealed public bid and we've sent to the solicitor right now if there's any question at this point.
Okay.
I'm not the solicitor. I'm not the solicitor, so I think he's in the room.
He is.
I know.
He's in the room, but not commenting specifically on the meeting.
So
we don't know. So
this is a repeat of the same budget that you saw initially.
Wait, so then tomorrow you call them or whatever, and they're like, oh crap, we didn't prove this carefully.
No, he was actually there.
Oh.
He knows it.
What was his response?
We can't ask this 50 people, and I'm not asking anybody, I'm not even talking.
Generally speaking, the safest thing for a public body to do is to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder meeting specifications. And whether or not they designate it as an add or a deduct goes to whether they met specifications.
Well, yeah, I guess it does go to attention to detail. You don't want a contractor that's sloppy in the work. And if we're going to use a sloppy proposal, that could, right, let's not say.
They're not that. We work with them. Things happen. So that's the summary that we showed you first, but you'll see this again in a minute with the whole thing, with both of them together, so we can jump to that. And then this was the cost per square foot. If you remember, we had done the other one at around 215. And this one's at closer to 202, which you would expect. But again, even this one's not a really fair comparison because we're not building, that's why I'm just telling you that although you're asking for some comparative stuff, this is very, very difficult to compare. But I just know you're getting much better value because if you were to budget it today, you would be budgeting much higher. I mean, that's the fair thing I can honestly say to you. But again, because some of this is renovation, a third of it is a new construction, it's really not.
It's the same approach. So here's the recommended bids with the alternates. Taking the site out, taking the demolition and asbestos abatement out, the estimated building cost, and the unit price, or the square foot cost of $200. I mean, it's, like you said, it's something, you could argue a couple dollars either way, depending on how you evaluate it. But what it will demonstrate is that there was value in renovating the building and utilizing, the existing structure, the pieces that we felt had value. Definitely saved us money. And the site, of course. So, project's under budget and on schedule. Same story as before, legal, sustainable, energy efficient building. The same energy efficiencies that we talked about at Newtown will be realized here. Equally energy efficient systems being specified and installed here. And the value-added alternatives, very sustainable materials throughout the entire building. We have terrazzo floors in the existing building. We propose to use terrazzo in the rest of the building. We will basically wash those floors for the rest of the life of the building and not have to worry about replacing them in our lifetime. So again, the same next steps at this building tomorrow night, all of the things I talked about bringing to you for Newtown, I'll bring to you for this, minus this.
Yeah, that's a typo, sorry.
Construction waste will not be involved. Groundbreaking is May of 16, June, construction begins. June of 16 to August of 18, phase completion of the building. A lot of phasing, a lot of hard work and homework and meetings over how we're going to phase this project.
So for students that are going to enter Holland Middle this fall, what is that going to look like for them when they stay in school? What does it mean to them?
Lauren, you want to try to do that one, or I can. So the first phase, while he's doing that, the first phase, what we have to do immediately is we have to relocate a tech ed room to its permanent location. So we're doing that actually right in May, we're starting to do that work.
That one right there?
Yes, it's right next to the outdoor mechanical space.
Okay.
Couple
Oh, right,
classrooms in
because
there.
that's, okay.
And then we're basically going to take the rest of the summer to prep the site to create the separate zones for construction, for the new construction. If you recall, we're building a big addition on the left side, or the right side if you look from the front, and then the classroom addition in the back also. The classrooms that we just decided to keep.
The new
back.
Yeah.
Of the building.
The new back.
So we'll be kind of creating those separate zones. We'll be creating the separate parking area to allow faculty to park, as well as creating the construction stations. The majority of summer is going to be spent on that. However, there is one wing, as soon as the tech ed is done, we're going to start that one pod. So if you imagine the building, it's first and second floor, pod 1, pod 2, first and second floor, pod 3, first and second floor, pod 4, first and second floor. The principals worked it out, we're going to get so first and second floor, each of those pods, every 6 months, basically.
Starting at the back.
Houses.
Okay, houses, sorry.
Like color.
So those houses, we're getting,
Yeah.
so we're gonna get the first and second floor every 6 months, and we're gonna jump around. Meanwhile, the new construction will be going on. So that's kind of the simple picture. So from a student perspective, they won't have access to one of those areas, then the next area, the next area.
So the way that building is designed, there's a lot of movement, but for the most part, on the second floor, if you look at it in quadrants, there's two
Let you go back to the.
two houses that are 7th grade and 2 that are 8th. Would there be a situation, is that in consideration, is the phasing of it gonna be that like the 7th grade is gonna be affected 1 year and 8th grade is gonna be affected? Like, will one student always be affected, or is it?
What we have to worry about, Denise, from a building performance standpoint, if you will, is a mechanical system that serves the lower level of this space, also serves the upper level of this space. So when we take an upper level or lower level out of commission, we couldn't phase it without doing the upper level, because they wouldn't be having conditioned spaces at the same time. So we tried to work it that we were taking a unit out, taking a reasonable section of building out, and allowing the principal to take the number of students from that space and reallocate it.
And then we have the 2 summers. The next summer, this summer, there's very little that actually happens in the buildings for the most part,
Except up here.
except up there. But then the next summer, we have some heavy, go ahead.
All the corridor
He
ceilings are
spent
also,
like his,
all the corridor ceilings are also coming down this summer, so that basically the MEPs can get in there, start doing coordination, also start taking systems down that they don't need at this point. So that's the summer, basically, what Aretha was talking about, is the tech ed lab at the top right-hand corner. And then basically, Doug, when you come down, it's the bottom rectangle from it says special ed. Well, yeah, but you're going up and down. Special ed, science lab, and then the classrooms on the right. That square is the classrooms that will start basically in June. And then there'll be temporary partitions in it. So like we said, we'll take that square, we'll do that for 6 months, and we're gonna hop to the left and take those. And then by the time we've got those 2 finished, the new classrooms on the bottom will be done. So they'll have that entire, that wing, and then we're gonna hop over to the other side and do the same thing.
I'll be honest with you, there's going to be, it's going to look a little bit different. It's gonna be, there's gonna be construction stuff, right? But the one advantage is every 6 months, they're gonna get something new.
Well, and I guess the other thing is they're gonna start getting natural light.
Right. Every 6 months, they're gonna get some new, finish one, another finish one.
And like square.
Just
a regular one. So that's the advantage. There will be some inconvenience.
I want to say something that's important, because I know this is also, public, in this broadcast meetings. We will be meeting with the principal, whatever staff wants to be there, at an evening meeting, inviting parents to come to that meeting before construction and talk to them all about the building phasing, the expectations that parents can have before their kids come to school, so they understand exactly what they're going to be living in for the 2 years that they're there.
So that means like the 6th graders and.
It'll be a public, open to the public advertising. I'm happy to, we're gonna work closely with Robert and with the principal. Warren and I will come and do a dog and pony and be there as long as we need to answer any and all questions they have, address the concerns that parents have, that are reasonable, natural concerns.
Those were really successful at Goodnow and Holland.
And even though Newtown is a new building built next to the existing, I think we will offer a similar meeting, if there's willingness to do so there, just so people understand exactly what, although there's no construction in the building proper, I think it's important.
I would, to the extent that you can, when you do the orientations, at least keep the core of that message in case people don't get to that second one, it's like something we're reinforcing.
So it's important that that's understood. And as we've said, all of the preparation for this piece of construction will happen the first summer. And all of this parking area and developing staging area for construction. So there's a lot of things that are gonna happen from the get-go, not necessarily, you're not gonna see a building pop out of the ground immediately.
What about communication to any of the local clubs that use the fields?
Yeah, I've been working with Pauline, who schedules all those events at both of these buildings. So we're being careful not to schedule something and then ask someone to find another home.
I would imagine, based on knowing our rates, we're not sacrificing any significant revenue hits as a result of not using those, no sooner than not, right?
There's not gonna be a lot of room in either one of these schools for a few years to do much.
No, I get, but that's not a big number based on what we get.
It's not a big number.
No.
I think it's valuable to be able to say every 6 months they'll get something new. When does that start?
The first one will be January of 2017.
Semester break. And my other question is, it looks like Newtown Middle School construction will be completed in June of 18 for classes to start in August. At Holland, it's going to be in August for start of classes in August.
Because we need that last summer.
I understand.
Because we don't have 2 summers.
There's not much of a cushion there, is my point.
We don't.
I mean,
They will have been in the building the entire duration of the renovation.
But you want to bring over Richburg, that's his temporary.
Yeah, now, without.
You won't have empty space.
Even delaying a little bit before this project goes.
Okay.
It's very, very good point, excellent point. The phasing of this has been gone over. I mean, if you look at the phasing plan, we describe it to you here, but
Push back just a
10 sheets of drawings to tell contractors how to phase this project and give milestones.
Petition
Everybody's
types.
managing it, and it's the reason that it's a tough project from that perspective, but I think if we execute it properly, we've done so at Goodmill, Holland, and elementary stuff.
So because it's so tight, contractor doesn't deliver on something they committed to, miss a timeline outside of our control, is there recourse?
Well, we have liquidated damages and milestones, but there's no value for the inconvenience if something doesn't work out, so we have some float in some of the dates, and we have some contingency other days, but, because something could happen that's out of
No, I get it,
control.
but generically speaking, a contractor messes up, we can push back 6 months because.
Yeah, I mean, the event, let's just say for some reason that pod didn't get done, let's just say we were digging this, underground and something happened and it took an extra 3 months. Well, we just have to watch the 6-month switch, the kids won't be without a room, we're not gonna give them.
No, I guess my point is if it's something outside of our control.
You're responsible.
That is the report, the because of negligence or whatever. Not something unforeseen that they didn't see coming. But we have recourse if somebody.
We have liquid damages.
There's definitely some teeth in the front end of the documents.
Yes.
Put it that way.
The other one that's always an unknown, when you set up for senior, it's a renovation project. You start opening up walls and you details that, David's crew's been working on and something changes because that's, there's really no big destructive testing that went on to, do that kind of stuff. You open up a wall and all of a sudden you got a bunch of pipes with asbestos on it. It's got to stop it. The guy's got to come back then. So it's.
We've done it a lot.
We've done it a lot.
I don't want to.
I don't want to scare you. We've done it a lot. We managed it a lot. We
Life
work with the people in that kind of stuff.
So the other
Hopefully it's
good
avoidable,
news
but
is
there will be things.
it's a team of problem solvers. So we run into a problem, it's not a construction manager that points a finger and says, hey, you figure it out, that's your problem. It's a team that says, hey, what do we do to fix this? How do we resolve it? And how do we do it quickly so we keep things moving? So I'm thankful for a team like that on both these projects.
Good. Are we good with the drawings for now?
Yeah.
How does the grant work in terms of, does the money all come?
It's a thing that you need. It's the best, it's gonna be the best, Bob Weiner is gonna shoot shot.
Okay.
I'm telling you, ask the other business managers that we've got. When we get to $2 million, we will submit $2 million worth of payments that we've made. You will get a check for $200,000 within 30 days, as long as you submit all the paperwork on it. It will be wired to the account. And then we'll keep doing that at $2 million. By the time we get to $20 million, they'll hold a retainage for us to finish, which will have to be paid a lot of money.
So that's actually pretty incredible that they're giving it to you.
Just told us the thing.
That is.
Okay, if you want to touch.
Yeah, so what I try to do here again is put them both side by side, not side by side, but up top is the budget and the actual for Newtown there. And so we've got the 58,582 and we came in at 55,820. There's that approximately 3 million. And then we did the same thing down below for Holland. If you go down to Holland, so it's the same numbers, we kind of compare those, and there's approximately again, close to 3 million. And then What we did at the bottom is showed you the budget versus the actual. The difference is almost $5 million. And then also I pointed out to you that those numbers include 4.6 million of contingency. So you have close to, hopefully close to 10 million potentially there. Plus you've got the $4 million in grants. So the short story is, we could be looking at around $10 million less than what we projected, if we don't get much of the contingency. So we've got you covered, I think, in all directions, and you're getting the other $4 million too for the expense within these numbers. So I'm kind of shocked myself that we are where we are, a little bit pleasantly surprised and happy for you, as well as for us. That's the story.
Does anyone have a figure for what we borrowed or are borrowing to fund this, the total amount?
I have to get that. Sorry.
Was it 110? Okay.
Well, there was a block of money
Right, there's some left over.
from somewhere else.
Was it more than $10 million or?
I'm sorry.
I hope we come in the budget, of course, but we do have. I'd like to know what happened before. I guess you take.
No, but we had it because we were gonna do additional borrowing.
I understand.
But, so,
But we had to do that for the project.
oh, I see what you're saying.
I sent out the budgets for both these projects today, end of the day, so he wanted to see them so he could begin to evaluate things. So he's on it. I'll touch base with him tomorrow. So that's it for this evening. Are there any other public comments?
Can I make a comment before you? So just one clarification on the statement you said. I think you said that we decided to keep the classrooms. That's what you said. That's your recommendation, but it wasn't a decision that we made, right?
None of these are decisions.
Right, I just wanted to be clear for the public, because, I don't want any misconception.
Yeah, this is the team's recommendation, so Doug and I are speaking, but we've all had input, including Barry, Dr. Frazier, the architects, obviously.
I think it makes sense, but.
Right.
I would say thank you to all of you guys, just thinking about the plan con documents that are involved in this. It's an incredible amount of work, it's a great summary, and it was very helpful tonight.
And a very fast turnaround.
Yeah, very fast turnaround. The work, Doug, I know you worked really hard with the team, so tell them thank you, and all your teams. I know.
Today alone, the work these folks did was incredible.
There, I don't know how far, that we got to get into the details, but if it's not there, whatever isn't there today, tomorrow morning.
They're in process, the rest of them should be up, I would think, by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
So maybe a little later today.
Okay.
That's a couple
Thank
things
you.
to fix.
That's what she does.
Yeah.
So Marie still had a few that she was sitting on, changed her out, it was late. And that still had a couple, but it'll be okay tomorrow.
Yes.
Did the 2016 summer projects go out to bid?
They've been received, and
What?
the bids have been received for the summer project.
Okay, and does that money come from capital reserve or from the budget? That 3 million?
I'm not sure, but I'd rather defer to Bob Reinhardt on where I could guess where I think it's coming from, but I don't want to.
Oh, and the finance costs on both buildings, is that the finance cost for the bonds? What finance cost is that?
Yeah, to borrow the money.
To borrow
But
all
again,
the money?
No, it's not, Nancy, it's not.
It doesn't
interest,
seem like enough.
It's the cost to float the bonds. So the BFM, the bond council.
Okay, that's what I thought, it was too low to be the finance cost. Okay, and Dr. Frazier, you promised that we would honor the heritage of Newtown, which was Council Rock's first high school in the new building, and I'm looking forward to see a presentation sometime in the future on how we're gonna honor that heritage, or what we're gonna bring over from that building.
We'll be sure to let you know.
Okay, and last, cost, I was against keeping the classrooms at Newtown when you were gonna put 60% of the children at Holland and the other 40 at Newtown. But since the board seemed to vote, even though you didn't take a vote, that you're gonna balance both high schools and balance both middle schools, then my objection to adding those classrooms is removed. You got it?
They'll make you happy.
But if you were gonna go 60-40, we didn't need those classrooms at Newtown. But you said, and I'm holding you to your word, that you're gonna balance, which means, and somebody said we should get T-shirts that say Crossing the Creek, that we will take children who live in somewhere, we will balance the enrollment at both the middle schools and the high schools. And that's why my objection to those 4 classrooms is good.
So I have a question from a parent perspective. I've gotten a lot of questions from parents. The fencing and the groundbreaking is going to start in May, which is in the middle to end of spring sports season. And that's also where our outdoor gym activities take place. Is there a plan, since we will be in the middle of the sports season? I realize going forward, there's plans for the upcoming seasons. And then for gym, is there going to be outdoor space for the kids to be able to go outside at all for gym? Or are we going to have inside gym class when it's 70 degrees and beautiful outside?
So a couple of things there. Tim Nolan's working with North to get us through this end of the spring season as those fields get disrupted. We won't have any fields there for athletic purposes for those, actually for 3 years, because it's 2 years plus the year of growing for most of the fields other than one solid field that we put in so that we can get PE classes on there. So we will be using both the Newtown Township Park area on Swamp Road, as well as Newtown Elementary School for those years for all of those athletic teams.
Okay.
And then the last piece of it is Tim is looking at, if you noticed in the front of the building, they took all the stumps out of there.
Yes.
One of the reasons is that would be one space for outdoor PE. The
Okay.
other space that they're going to consider is a cross green lane on the area between the bypass and Green Lane. Again, all this is going to be dependent on which activities they can use. The last area would be in the back of the building where the trailers were. That is a grass area. So those are the 3 spots that would be available, that would be green areas for PE for those couple of years.
And will the kids still have access to Tyler Park to do the biking and the different activities that they do over there?
They will, would be a different access route. They wouldn't be able to go through the wooded area they do now. They'd probably have to use the sidewalk that extends over there or through Green Lane.
Just to be clear, because we're not trying to come in and just say we're taking over the site and no one can use it for anything else.
Right.
There are a lot of construction activities that have to take place from a conservation district standpoint. There's stormwater management, areas of collection. There's a pipe that runs through, dissects our site and goes back over to a local stream that has to be reworked. So there's all the roof drains from the existing building run right through where our new building wants to go. So there's a lot of site work that we have to dive into immediately. It's just taking all the space away that we love to have and keep, and we tried and we worked with Tim the best that we could.
Parking spaces.
We have temporary parking because we're losing parking, so we're creating parking in an area that was green. So we're doing everything we can to try to maximize the functions of the site, but the construction activities are just dictating that most of it needs to go away. So we are sensitive to it. We've challenged him for sure.
Yes. You mentioned the opportunity to create some learning opportunities with the solar and the new buildings. During the construction project and the destruction projects, are there going to be learning opportunities built in for the kids at the schools there?
That's an excellent point. In his other job, we call Warren Professor Garrity. He just came off the project at Upper Dublin High School where I would say they overextended that opportunity to the utmost. So we would encourage that. I think we have to work strategically with Doug and Barry and the principal and Dr. Frazier. We have to find a way. Again, at high school, I think it's a little bit easier to do that. At the middle school, it would have to be something that, so I think there are those opportunities. to be honest with you, I haven't developed them, but we have 2 years on both sites to do something that could be meaningful, and we certainly would welcome.
What made me think of it is one of the cool things up in Westchester, they're building a new Tappan Zee Bridge.
Yeah.
And I know that they've worked in the local school districts, getting some involvement in the studies and implications for all the districts around. So it's a pretty cool project.
Yeah, I even did, we did a couple, when we were doing Good Note with the, some of the math students and the science students. So, we just need to figure out how it goes, but it's, I love to do it and the kids love it. It's a great learning tool for them, especially on both these ways. Especially with the energy savings and energy management stuff. And so we'll figure out a way to get them involved. It's pretty cool.
The fifth grade at Good Note really took a look at the documents, the Schrader documents, and we're very interested. I think just hanging, there's like 7 or 8 layers of documents on the walls at Newtown Middle would be interesting to the students there. You're gonna take the artwork down anyway, so.
Yeah, it's meeting with the principals and Barry and figuring out, and even maybe some science teachers. That was the kind of the heavy tours that we did, mostly in the science stuff. And just figuring out how it can work and when it's going to work most effectively for the kids.
So we'll work together, certainly, and it sounds like, maybe Robert, we could ask Robin to assist if there's anything from the Newtown Middle School existing that could work into part of his design, recognizing sensitivities of new design versus incorporating anything existing. Maybe there's a place or an opportunity that we can try to figure something out together. We can talk about that, but.
What about in reference to having the students involved, what about engaging MBIT? Not to have any kids do the work, obviously, but you've got kids who are studying in that field, also being sensitive to your time as a job. Right? We don't want to tax you too much, but we've got kids studying architecture, we've got kids studying engineering. Right? What a great opportunity for them to come in and see their schools that they went to see how the demolition is done and how it's laid out. That'd be really great to engage those kids.
Another thing I know Mr. Taylor talked about, and I think the other proposal is to try to get a live webcam. Also, so we've talked about all these things. We just
we can put it on the TV station, Nancy. A live webcam, put it on the TV station so you can watch construction instead of.
Be better than what we have.
No audio.
But it's also on this one that allows you to do a time thing.
Yeah.
And you could almost take like 6 months and put it in like 60 seconds. So you could pretty much show how it.
Did we ever do a virtual tour? Did we do that?
I have both of them work on, I now have a CD and a thumb drive, so I can work with Matt to get those on our website so they can be seen anytime.
We need to get those iPhones right.
I'll throw some dirt around and spray some water. So, thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Doug, Wendy said she was having phone trouble. She's listening on YouTube. Just so you know, we didn't lose her. What?
Okay.
Good job. Thanks, guys.